Government's big plan to boost the economy. He'll announce measures backed by Cabinet to reignite growth, stimulate economic recovery and ensure confidence in sectors affected by uncertainty. Our coverage is being anchored in Pretoria this morning by Newsnight presenter Voyo Mvoko. Voyo, good morning to you. First of all, though, all very well and good to announce the stimulus package, but he's got to find the money first, though, hasn't he?
Indeed, Jeremy, just before I answer your question, we're right inside the room from where President Cyril Ramaphosa will be making that announcement in just under, 1.5 hours. The room is almost ready. They were doing some tests a short while ago. But yes, going back to your question, he's got to find the money. And there's been a great deal of speculation as to where he is going to get that money from. Obviously, something will have to come from the fiscus. Presumably, in their meetings, everyone has agreed as to how much they will be able to part with. I'm talking now about government departments. But there's also been a great deal of speculation as to whether, in fact, as part of the package he'll be presenting, will there be money from China, which will obviously be borrowed money. And other people have gone further to even say perhaps the IMF and the World Bank too may just get involved. But wherever he is going to get that money from, it is obviously not going to come cheap. It's going to come with a great deal of conditionalities, but also it will have to be put to good use. Because remember, right now we are in the middle of that state capture inquiry where it does appear like a great deal of money went to the wrong hands, not quite where it was supposed to go. But I think perhaps the biggest or clearest indication as to the areas, at least, that he will be speaking to came from that briefing yesterday. Nomvula Mukanyane, the communications minister, giving a hint as to where the president may go when that briefing takes place. Let's just take a listen to some of what she had to say yesterday.
On the stimulus package, we all know that there are key drivers of our economy. Of course, tourism is part of that. Manufacturing is part of that. Infrastructure development is part of that. The issues that we have also shared with you here on easing the cost of doing business in South Africa, such as the visa regime that Cabinet has reflected on. The details we have agreed would actually be presented before yourselves and the people of South Africa and the world.
So, Voyo, once we have a clearer indication, and we will around 10 o'clock this morning, as to how the money is going to be raised, it then comes to the priority of channeling that money. And ostensibly, is it all then about big infrastructure development projects?
Yes, and it's not only about the new money, but also how to best utilize what government already has. I remember, Jeremy, on Newsnight, I think it was about a month ago or so, speaking to the CEO of SA Tourism, who had just come back from China. He was talking about there being agreement across government that tourism, for example, is one area that has the greatest or one of the greatest potential. However, if you look at how resources are allocated or at the very least utilized, that doesn't speak to tourism being regarded as a priority. For example, China is one of the countries that have apparently been identified as having a great deal of potential. But how do you serve the Chinese with one office in Beijing manned by 3 people? That is not speaking to your priorities. So as much as they are talking about a great deal of money that has to be found from government, but also from the private sector. There is also a great deal of reprioritization that has to happen, Jeremy.
Just a final one. Once we have a clear indication of what the blueprint is, obviously, Vuyo, measurability is absolutely critical. And I'm assuming the target then, once this economic stimulus package is announced, is to see some sort of gradual growth in GDP.
Indeed, that's what has to happen. And with that, if one interprets what Nomvula Mokanyane said, the role of state-owned enterprises, take an SOE like Transnet, which has huge resources, a very big spread across the country. What is going to be its role? So hopefully the president will give like a great deal of clarity as to how he envisages state-owned enterprises playing that role.
All right, Vuyo Mvoko, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Live at the Union Buildings for Morning News today. And as he says, that all-important fiscal stimulus briefing due to begin around 10 o'clock this morning. It will be carried live here on the channel.